All right, AMA is a go.
All right, cool. Welcome, everybody. Um, let's start off by giving a little love to McSauceface here, because if it wasn't for him, the AMAs wouldn't be happening, and uh, the Discord wouldn't be nearly as good as it is. So thank you, man. I really appreciate your
I
work.
deny all credit.
All right, so we're going to start off with the raffle winners. I don't know if any of y'all are here, but well, if I can find the list of prizes here. I had it a moment ago. All right, so the first of the $15 store credits or a Warlock 3 Audible code is going to someone. All I've got is email. Okay, here we go. Names. Aquador? If Aquador is here, I've got your email. I'll send a notice about the prize. The second one is going to go to Evan at I don't want to give out y'all's email addresses. The third one will go to Kason. And what's the next prize after that? The first of the autographed autographed hard copy will be going to Mr. Andrew Larson. The $25 store credit, well, the first of those will be going to Andrew Phillips. The second one to David Kartik. And the $50 store credit will be going to Anderson, G. Anderson 6681 to identify. So I'll be emailing those to everybody sometime tomorrow, probably. And with that, I think we can move on to the questions.
Huzzah, fun time. I'm going to pop up this little fun screen. All right, question one comes from Danny Rogan. With the release of Warlock 3, Noah's pace at adding members to his coven has picked up, with one new member inducted and three others on deck, quotation marks. Many Haremlit series end up adding at least one new love interest with each book and include enough romance with that LI to keep it interesting. Do you intend to keep the story of the Blackwood Coven going after Noah has added all 13 lovely witches, or will it be will the series instead lead up to that point?
So it's gonna go at least through the end of college, their stay at Willamere. Um, that's when I intend to have the major plot points wrapped up and everything, and then maybe a wrap-up book after that. And we'll see where we go from there. Early on, I was thinking one book a year. I think I've said this before, and now we've got three for 1 year. I don't know if it'll be more or less for the following years, but looking at book 4, and we may not make it to Christmas as the book 1 did.
All right, next question. This is a compilation of a few different people kind of asked a similar question. I condensed it into one and then summarized essentially the question, which is how many books do you foresee being in the series?
So again, completely pulled out of somewhere dark and damp. Um, I'm thinking 3 books per school year, so 12, and then a wrap up, so 13, which is an interesting number that I came up with, fit in with the series anyway. Might be more, probably will not be less. I was a little concerned when I started Warlock 4 that, okay, maybe it'll be less, but I think it's actually going to grow. That's something that I found um, with my Karoo series, is that as the books go on, they tend to get longer and longer because you're tying up all the different threads from you've created over a longer period of time.
Next question comes from Gaxling. How does the blessed silver used by the patriarchy work? It was stated that everything that happens is mana interacting with mana, that mana is needed to survive, and it seemed that their nets and suits sapped all mana. How can they wear suits made of the stuff and go through nets of it?
Silk. So if you notice a few times, Mel has picked up things with a silk cloth, or in one of the point of views, covered cold iron in silk. And so silk is an insulator. And so the suits that the patriarchy wore were lined with silk. They're silk gloves with outside or inside of the chain. And I don't know if I mentioned that in the book that the hoodie that the vampire wore was also lined with silk.
And next question comes from Sean. There's a lot of stuff in this category. What differentiates good stories that you enjoy versus bad ones you don't enjoy?
That's an interesting question. Um,
That long
in
pause freaked me
general,
out. Keep going, Sam. I thought I lost you for a second. Go, go.
he froze. Um, I think in general, not anything genre specific. The thing that really makes a bad story for me is stilted or bad dialogue. Um, I don't like stories where everybody speaks in completely proper English. They don't even have any contractions sometimes. It just or you have characters that have a certain background that would never say something, but you know the author would. So dialogue is a big trigger for me in stories.
I agree. Next question is Sam. This is a long one. This is a genre fraught with shallow plots and cliches so overused that the dead horse quotation marks idiom cannot properly encompass it. And dot dot dot. He's dead. Villains, comma, be they person or event, rarely last beyond the book after they are introduced. When in Rome, different culture norms are used to explain away and override any expectations of any characters necessary to enable the desired progression, and the turmoil of the MC or secondaries is, all too often, weakly conceived and executed. More meat to the sauce. World building and political landscape is often briefly addressed in the beginning and then cast aside for pandering sauce and fluff. What approaches slash thought processes slash inspirations did and do you use to thoroughly break such crippling trends? I feel like he wrote it long on purpose and used my name on purpose just to make me read that much text.
Um, and I gave this one a lot of thought trying to come up with a better answer to it, and I just write my story. I don't honestly look at those things in the process and try to avoid them. I just write the story that I wanted to write. Um, I think some of the things there I expected Warlock to be when I started, and it just wouldn't go there. Um, it, some of those things are just simpler to write. They're comfortable for the audience. You know what to expect going in. Some genres are like that. I mean, I'm not going to read a Jack Reacher novel for character development. Reacher is Reacher. He is Reacher for 32 books, and he doesn't change. and that's what we like going in. And I think a lot of the harem genre is like that. We know what we like, we know what we're going to get going in, and our expectations are met. Um, Warlock did wind up being a little different. I was not anticipating the um, kind of heavy themes that it has at times. The Dungeon Dasher series will be a lot lighter. I think that's where I'm going to play with the um, more standard stick to the tropes type of thing, which is also fun um, to read and to write.
The next one comes from Alexander R. What was the most impactful source for your writing? Was it a book, a life event, or perhaps something entirely different? How did this impact your voice and writing process?
So I think everything I've ever read or everything I've ever watched goes into it. Um, as far as style goes, you can see a strong impact from commercial television, where the end of a chapter is a hook to get you to stay through the commercial, and I do that deliberately sometimes. Um, as far as just the act of writing or loving writing, um, there was a girl I dated in high school, and I'd always written. I was writing short stories and a really bad novel in high school, and she said she read some of them, and she would just pick something up and hand it to me sometimes and say, "Tell me a story." It was the cutest thing. And so I got really used to making up stories about just random things. And even after we broke up, and to this day, really, I see things and I say, "There's a story there." Um, something I could tell with this thing that I've just seen.
That answers why we want AMAs, because that was fucking awesome. Excuse me while I fangirl out. Okay, next question. I am professional. Is from Cam. Will there eventually be a collector's edition for the Warlock series once it has been completed?
I've been looking at this, and I think there will definitely be some premium editions. I'm looking at um, some folks who do leather covers, things like that. What I'd really like to do is have a really nice volume with a really nice cover, and also incorporate the point of view chapters and the extra chapters from Patreon in line with the story where they belong. Um, which would be a really big ass book. Um, that aspect I'm kind of going to put off till later simply because I don't want to, a director's cut. I don't want to do a director's cut of book one and then 6 months later I've written another point of view for the book one time period and tell y'all, hey, I got another premium book for you. So something like that will probably wait until I've got more stories. And I think I've pretty much mined the point of view and alternate chapters out of each book. Um, but yes, I'm definitely looking into nice sets, high quality covers, things like that.
Someone mentioned, just to pop in with this really quick, Kickstarter question mark from Grimsnort.
Kickstarter would probably be involved with one of those just because those are things that I can't just front the cost for. The leather covers cost quite a bit.
And I can't see who said it, but someone said we would buy them all, and that is factually correct. I took a straw poll, and it is factually correct. Okay, next one is from Scorched Cheddar. Given that they had to renovate their cabin, do you think that they will be allowed to do some expansions so they can have more privacy as the coven expands?
No, they're stuck with the size of the cottages. I don't think that Willamere would allow any um, additional expansions of those, just the renovations to bring them up to modern standards. Um, I think it's fairly obvious that the cottage was built, and then there was one extension put on for things like some kitchens and bathroom areas that weren't in the original, but nothing more than what's there, I think. Now their main home, that's got to get bigger. Mel's townhouse is getting a little crowded, so we'll have to see what solution they come up with for that.
Foreshadowing. And Dreamer Dawn asks, I noticed that the silk was used to encase metal objects twice. Is that for natural insulator, for magic slash detection? I swear I speak
That,
English. You kind of answered this, but go ahead.
that's the insulation. So it doesn't entirely block mana. It's not something that you couldn't put a suit on and it protects you, but it acts as an insulator, a buffer, and allows things like touching the blessed silver without the effect taking effect at least for a period of time, or Gabriel's amulet, so that Mel could pick that up, and also taking the cold iron into fairy.
Just to go back one question really quick, because I didn't think to say this. I am speaking directly to the Cottage Improvement Society with this one. There will not be an additional channel for the townhouse. You get the one channel, you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. All right, next question is from Italian Panther. I am in the middle of my fourth reread of W3 and loving every second of it. What was the scene that came the most naturally to you, and what scene was the most difficult?
So specifically out of Warlock 3, um, the scene that two scenes that came very naturally to me. Um, First was the date with Priscilla, the first one at the fair. That just flowed out. It was no effort at all to write that. Um, and the other one would be the spicy scene with Sam at the beginning, because, well, I know that realm, let's say. Difficult. I had a lot of trouble getting started with some of the council session scenes, uh, just because of the formality of them. I kind of write a more casual scenes easier, maybe. Um, on the other hand, I got into a flow today and wrote quite a bit of another more formal scene like that. So maybe that's changing.
Next question is coming from Richter. I noticed that the year and a day is being used in both Warlock and Dungeon Dasher. Is this indicative of a shared universe? If not, where did the year and a day come from?
No, it's not a shared universe. I don't think I could make that work. Um, Under the Sutherland name, very nearly everything in that is a shared universe, even from the near Earth, near time, and on up into the future with that titles there. Um, but not here. No, not these two. Very different things. Year and a day. That's pretty standard. Having meaning in a lot of places, so that's why it appears in both, because it's kind of normal for the magic stuff.
It sounds cool too.
Yeah,
All right,
we use
next.
we use it in law enforcement as well, to a certain extent. In a lot of places, if you're sentenced to less than a year, you go to jail. If it's more than a year, you go to prison. So there's a cutoff there for a year and a day.
I actually didn't know that, which is probably a good thing now that I'm, I'm thinking about it. Okay, next one is coming from Tricky Biz. The best thing people say about Warlock is the characters are well written and very well received. Do all of your characters, current and future, have a backstory you reference when writing? Who, character personality wise, is the most challenging for you to write?
They do all have backstories. I might not know what they are, but they come through, and I kind of find things when I go back and write something about their backstory that surprises me, even though the signs were there and what has already happened. I don't know where the chicken and egg is there. But the point of view of Sam's birthday is an instance of those. Um, I had no idea of that connection with the goddess that comes out there for her when I wrote Warlock, um, but all of a sudden it made sense because of her intimacy of the goddess I adore and such. So yeah, I kind of find out the backstories as part of the writing, which is fun because it's honestly some of the writing in this series has been like you guys reading it. I find it out as I'm doing it, and I laugh and cry along with them, as, especially after the fact when I listen to Roz. She's made me bawl my eyes out a couple times. Um, the character personally was the most challenging for me to write. I don't think any of them were challenging. I'm really lucky as an author in that my characters truly do speak to me. The words just come out. And a lot of times when I'm kind of feeling blocked, I'll just skip the exposition and go directly to dialogue and just put two characters in a scene and have them talk. Not even putting the tags in, just line after line after line, and go back and put things in later because of the conversation is what's important. I don't. Um, other than the Sutherland name, the other two aren't, don't have a strong following. Um, and I never created one for the Sutherland name because I never really used Discord and nobody requested it. And I'm not sure if the main audience for that would be interested in a Discord. I think it trends older and more older military. I could be wrong on that, but I'm not sure if they would spend as much time as you guys do.
Just a heads up, I'm gonna cut the video about 10 minutes from now, but like just a quick stop and then start recording again, so we hopefully don't have a cutoff at the end again, just in case. I'm just being extra paranoid. But
Gotcha.
next question is coming from Forkbeard. What has been your favorite bit of witch lore slash flavor you have put into this world, and is there one piece of lore or flavor you are most looking forward to exploring and expanding with readers later on?
I think the favorite bit of mine in this is exploring the aspects of the goddess and expanding it to four from the tradition. Um, the tradition always bugged me of three aspects of Maiden Mother Crone because they're supposed to represent stages of life, and they left off the child. There's no child there. There's no um, and I think that's important because, in mine, the child represents that childlike unconditional love. And that's something that should be part of the aspect of a goddess. Um, Going forward, I am really looking forward to exploring other traditions in this world. And I'll leave it at that.
Kind of in the vein of this, it came up, and I think would be, on the back end of this, from Silent Monk in the chat. Are there any society, magic rules, lore that would prefer to change as you've developed the books you've written? An arbitrary decision made early on later becomes a stumbling block.
Um, I haven't hit one yet. I've hit some that have brought up challenges. Uh, I'm still working on that essay to give examples of um, how the hierarchy in the families works and moving the covens around. Um, And part of that is trying to get my thoughts on the paper, and also part of it is that some aspects of that are becoming plot points in 4, so I don't want to give them up quite yet.
Next question is coming from Locks. There is a lot of esoteric information woven into the series. Does the author practice the craft, or did he just do a lot of research?
Um, so, as not to violate the Veil Treaty of 1623, I decline to answer and say that I just do research.
If you need assistance, blink twice. All right, next question is coming from David Johnson. This is my favorite question, by the way, and this is like the 5th time I've said that, but it's true every time I've said it. Warlock Peter lifts 3 by 10 by 6 chunks of earth. This is about 6.7 to 7.0 tons each go. Cassandra can telly small objects, and to get the Murphy bed up, they needed 4 to 5 to telly it up to their room, estimated. How is Peter so strong? I didn't check the math on this because I hate math, but it checks out.
I knew when I wrote that scene, I knew this was coming. Um, so Peter is a grown-up warlock who's had a fairly powerful coven for um, many, many, many years, while all of the kids at Willowmere are little baby witches. Um, the 4 to 5 or more for the telly was more to avoid physical effort than the magic effort. So if they took the pieces up with one person, then they'd have to walk up or walk to the back and lift it to the window. With 4 or 5, they can pass them along while staying in place. Um, but it really is about development and power. Peter's a much more powerful warlock than Noah is, even with Noah's advantages. He's had a really powerful coven for 100 years, so um, it'll take some time for the witches to catch up with the adults.
All right, next question. Pop that up there. Comes from Jason. Discord is Omega13JAS. We have heard that fantasy creatures are real and seen examples of a couple types, fae, vampire, etc. Lots of characters also mention werewolves, though we have yet to be introduced to one on page. I'm sure any creatures will have their own twist, like the vampires pulling mana instead of blood. Are there any unique creatures or beings that you have considered having in the story?
Oh, I've been digging into all kinds of lore, um, especially in other traditions outside of the European. So um, we're going to be seeing a lot of things over the course of the books. Um, does unique creatures mean ones I make up, or
The way I read
unique
it
in?
is either that or just like known fantasy creatures. That's how I interpreted it.
It'll stick with things that actually exist in certain traditions. There's so much there to mine that I never run out. Yeah, Danny the Japanese, or they can make up some stuff, man.
Just real quick, Richard, I know you're going to come up to ask your question. Make sure your mic and everything is working and no cam, please. Not saying you were going to do it, but just saying it up front for anyone else that may come up. And the mic thing. All right, next question is Trevane. Do witches go to mundane colleges after completing schools like Willowmere? It may not be needed for most witches, but I would think they need some with college educations for running family offices and managing their wealth.
Well, for things like offices and managing the wealth, they can they handle that, learning that sort of stuff outside of a college. Um, they would go for things like if you consider when the coven's going to rent a private jet, you wouldn't necessarily want a mundane crew. So that is a business service aspect where witches would go to flight school and learn how to fly the plane. So it's something for the witches who don't necessarily have a coven to do, but not necessarily like just go to college for the sake of going to college. Um, some would go for for instance, law degrees, so that the families can have legal representation that is a witch without having to glamour their way into it. Maybe they could do that in the old days and just glamour up a diploma, but that's not possible now. So that they would go and get degrees. Well, Felicity did it because she wanted to. So yeah, I mean, all of the witches can take courses if they want to, or learn things, but not for purposes necessarily of you know having a career.
Next question is from Gratch. What happened to Noah's protection amulet during the Book 2 van attack? They took and moved his phone, but his amulet stayed with him, or he didn't wear it off campus, or they couldn't see it. They recovered it amongst the Silver Suit's items? Question mark. Amulet POV when? Sorry.
It it remained on him. It was not found by the patriarchy. Um, that's the magic that would have protected them couldn't affect them through via the suits. However, it could hide itself from them. And I will say that it is not happy about that.
There's one more, and then Richard, yours is after this one. But next one is from Mechatism. Can you tell us where to find your other publications?
They're all on Amazon, um, and the names are J.A. Sutherland. That's military science fiction, other science fiction, some near Earth stuff. There's going to be uh, a very short per volume space western coming, more in the vein of the old Saturday morning serials. Um, and then I've got Richard Grantham would be the name for it's more lesbian steampunk Dexter would be a good description of it. Um, and then if you are really adventurous, um, Kathleen Sanders, there's a young adult sapphic cozy romance for you.
All right, next is Richard coming up to read his own question as soon as I can find him in this super long list of people. There he is. I had to find the cat with the popcorn bucket.
Evening.
Evening.
I actually made this a two-part question. I managed to simplify it. How much have you fleshed out the Spellstick League, both the school and professional?
I fleshed out the number of teams, where they're located, and most of the names.
Okay. The well, did Willamere win the tournament or cup?
Not this year.
Not this year.
Neither did the
Okay.
Banshee.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard. All right, the next one is from Insidious. Have you considered Aurora Bliss for Goblin gigs? Just heard her stellar, well, spelled her, performance in a book where she sings with a legit background music.
Okay. I'm not sure if she was one of the ones that Jessica mentioned. Um, so I haven't specifically listened to her. Um, I did decide to go with different voice actors to provide some variety within my series. And I basically told the Royal Guard that to use their judgment. They did such a great job picking Lewis and Roz that I'm going to trust them on the new one as well.
Next one is back from Gaxling. Does Morgan create miniatures for Blackwood Coven's D&D sessions?
She does now.
That is the right answer. Next is from Asgrim. Can you explain how longing works? Is it a form of warlock summoning, or is it something entirely different?
Longing is for anything that is longed for. So if um, it's basically the witch is putting, even unconsciously, especially unconsciously, putting her magic into longing for something, and that's calling it into her life. Yes, I stole it from The Secret.
Next is from Moi. With the Karoo series, was there any inspiration from Treasure Planet?
You are not going to believe this. I have never seen Treasure Planet.
I quit.
I have never watched it. Guys, I have never watched it. And you will not believe this from me being the author of the Karoo series. Um, but I never before, I started writing Karoo, I never had an urge to watch it because it looked silly. Um, and then I wrote a successful series with spaceships that have glowing blue sails that have to be worked by hand. So consistency is not one of my virtues. But I do want to watch it. I'm waiting for, and I don't know why. I'm waiting for some significant time to do it. It just hasn't felt right to watch it. I think now that I would love it because I've heard so many people talk about it in conjunction with Karoo, um, but never watched it.
Richard has another question, but were you inspired by any David Weber?
Entirely. Yes, I've always been a fan of Age of Sail. So I'm a fan of Forrester, O'Brien, Dewey Lambden. I'm a huge fan of, and then of course bringing that into science fiction, Weber's Honor Harrington. And the reason I wrote Karoo, why I picked that to write, is because at the time, I missed the early days of Honor Harrington when we were focused on honor before it became universe spanning with a cast of thousands and um, just so huge and unwieldy. I still like it at that point, but I missed that intimacy with Honor Harrington, and that's why the Karoo series is always in Honor's head, even though it's third person. It is focused on her other than epilogues and just 4 chapters at the beginning. We are always with Alexis there.
It's my favorite Disney movie from when I was a kid, so I insist you watch it, and I take it as a
I,
personal
I,
slight that you
I
don't.
will come up with a plan.
I did want to ask one other thing, just to kind of toss this out there. So if people don't know, you can go ahead and pre-order Have Blaster Will Travel. Um, can you give us any teasers about that? And do you expect to use any particular voices for the audio on it?
So that's one. Under the Sutherland name, I don't go with publishers for the audio because I have an audience and they don't need a multi-person cast. So I will wind up going through ACX and trying to find a narrator for it. Um, don't have anybody in particular in mind. If the feel that I'm going for, the first book is very short. It's only 45,000 words. And that's the feel that I'm going for, is those short Saturday morning serials, specifically Have Gun Will Travel. The main character, if you took Paladin and put him in space, a little bit of changes. Um, that's the feel that I'm going for.
Well, I've already pre-ordered it, so I'm excited. Um, space is my jam. Next question is from Sigcorp. What do the covens use magic and rituals for? Power, money. What does magic get them that modern mundane ways can't?
Uh, this is a sensitive question because there's a plot point around it. power and money, definitely. Other things like, putting as much as they can into the wards, predicting stock markets to get money, influencing events. We could say that there's some used to influence the mundane world, trying to keep things stable, in some cases, not always successfully, maybe. And let me just say on that, power corrupts.
True enough. The next one is from Gaxling again. Why do some witches have residents that require them to be miserable in order to work magic? The goddess in all her aspects love their children. They made them what they are. So why do combinations like Cassandra's exist? I understand Felicity's unique situation, but it just seems to be too widespread.
So the goddess made the originals. Then nature takes over. So it's whatever changes were made to the originals, and then down through the ages, through their ancestry. Why are they so bad today? Actions have consequences. Magic listens to intent.
Love it. Next one is coming from Flounderman, but this will be this, and he's got one that I saw that I kind of like in the chat as well. Is Rachel's affinity fire or is it heart fire?
It's Heartfire. She does a lot with fire simply because it's fire in magical terms is just raw power. It's just blasts out. It's one of the easiest things for witches to do, and it allows her to burn off much more energy than other things would. Can't imagine her burning that much running around the school heart firing everybody. That might be fun though.
And then Flounder asked a question in the chat: does each supernatural species have their patron goddess / progenitor?
Some do. So if you think about the traditions around the world, let's say that a lot of that is true to a certain extent. So um, some of the Japanese deities would exist, things like that.
Vlad the Impaler. Next question is from David Johnson. You do such a great job with character development. Can we expect more cast members?
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be traveling the world. They're going to be bringing new witches into the coven. Lots of new characters. We'll have new students at Willowmere next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. So, yeah, lots of new characters. I hope I can keep them straight.
That is all my questions, unless you have anything else that you're wanting to go over, Daniel.
No, I covered the things at the beginning, so.
All right, that is the AMA 2 Electric Inquiru. Thank you, Daniel, so much for doing this. I think we all appreciate it, and hope everyone has a lovely night.
Thank you for coming, everybody. This still amazes me.